My son draws all sorts of really awesome robots, and I always take pictures of his drawings. I took one of those off an Instagram account and pulled it into Fusion 360 as a canvas. This places the image on a plane, and you can trace over top of it or create a new model using it as a reference. I traced over his drawing using line tools and curves and got pretty much the same shape really quickly and really easily. When you're creating a sketch, as long as it's a completely enclosed shape, you can extrude it into a 3D object. I printed these high infill, so hopefully they should be tough and will survive some play. I also didn't modify the tolerances on the posts and the holes that they go in. Instead, I decided to do that with sandpaper so that they were a nice tight fit. And given the orientation of these pieces and the holes in them, there was a lot of support material built into the pieces that easily came out. Once I got all that stuff pulled out, I started to be able to snap the thing together, and it had a nice tight fit and held position really well. The joints that were a little too tight just took a little bit of extra sanding to make them move freely. Of course, you could stop right there and just have a cool 3D printed toy, but I wanted it to look less like a 3D printed object, so I started by covering the whole thing with some filler primer. This is a really thick primer that I spray on all my 3D printed pieces, and it fills up some of the space in between the print lines. It's easily sandable to a nice finish, and you can do multiple coats if you need to build up the surface. After I had this all sanded and used a tack cloth to get rid of the dust, I started by spraying certain pieces orange. Then I moved on and did some other pieces white. You'll notice that I didn't mask off the posts, and that's mainly because I can't mask off the holes very well, so I decided to paint everything and then just scrape off the paint to make sure that everything was still a nice tight fit. After it all dried, I started putting the pieces together and scraped off the paint from the posts where it needed it. It actually worked pretty well. Just pushing these pieces together scraped off a lot of the paint and made for a nice tight fit. And of course, some of them were a little too tight, and I did have to take an X-Acto knife to scrape it off. You could certainly mask these off and not have to deal with this at all. But I figured overall I would rather have them tight than loose. I debated painting a lot of details on this and trying to make it really fun looking, but ultimately I decided to make it look as much like the picture as I possibly could, so I just used a Sharpie to darken the eyes. Alright, your drawings are awesome, and I take pictures of all of them. Do you remember this one?
Oh yeah.
Check this out.
What? Cool, Daddy!
What do you think?
Good.
So I took your drawing, and I remember how we 3D modeled? I
Yeah?
3D modeled your drawing, and this is all 3D printed.
Wow.
You can turn parts of him. He's kind of hard to turn, but you can bend.
It's awesome.
Obviously, my son was pretty happy with it. That makes me pretty happy with it. You could take this as far as you want. You could add all sorts of articulation and detail and painting, but, you know, it's a toy, so it's probably going to get destroyed. That's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.